Every year, millions lose power thinking the only threat is darkness. They're wrong. Your refrigerator is now a ticking clock, and the mistake people make in the first 60 seconds costs them hundreds of dollars in spoiled food, or worse. These 9 moves are deliberate, and the first one feels completely wrong, because when the power cuts, your refrigerator stops being an appliance. It becomes an ice chest with a countdown. The food inside is safe for 4 hours, but only if you never open the door. Every time you lift that handle, you shave 45 minutes off that clock. The cold air rushes out, and the temperature inside climbs into what food safety agencies call the danger zone, 40 degrees to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. In that range, bacteria double every 20 minutes. In 3 hours, one single bacterium becomes over 500, and you invited it in because you opened the door to grab a water bottle you didn't need. That is the first move, the one that feels completely wrong. Walk past the refrigerator. Do not touch it. Not to check the milk, not to rearrange the shelves, not to see if the ice is melting. Touch it and you just lost a day of preservation. But the refrigerator is not the only threat. Your house right now is wired like a dam waiting for the flood. When the power comes back, it does not return gently. It slams back into your outlets with a voltage spike that kills anything still plugged in. Homes burn down from this. Thousands of dollars in electronics fried in half a second. Televisions, computers, HVAC control boards, all turned to scrap metal because of a surge that costs less than $20 to prevent. And then there is the silent killer, the thing that has nothing to do with your food, nothing to do with your appliances. A threat that kills over 400 people in America every year during power outages, more than the storm itself. It fills the room while you sleep, and your nose can't detect it. The first 9 minutes determine whether it gets into your house at all. The next move on this list sounds paranoid, but it saves your life when the temperature drops and the panic sets in. The move that sounds paranoid is number 4 on the list. Before you touch the refrigerator, before you even reach for a flashlight, you check your home for carbon monoxide. Not with a detector. The detector should already be there, fully functional, batteries tested. You check by asking one question. Where is my generator right now? Or my camp stove? Or my kerosene heater? Or my charcoal grill? Because when the temperature drops and the panic sets in, people put those things inside. The garage, the basement, the patio with the sliding door cracked. Every single one of those locations can kill you. Carbon monoxide is odorless, colorless, and tasteless. The human nose has zero ability to detect it. In concentrations of just 100 parts per million, that's a trace amount. It binds to your blood 240 times more tightly than oxygen. You fall asleep. You never wake up. The Centers for Disease Control report, over 400 Americans die this way every year during power outages. 400 people who survived the storm, who kept their food cold, who did everything else right. And the deaths spike in winter because the cold drives people to make exactly this move, thinking it's safe because they crack a window. It isn't. So, before you do anything else, you confirm that every fuel-burning device is outside, 20 feet from the house, exhaust pointed away from doors and windows. That is move 4, and it costs you exactly $0 to make it right now, in the first 3 minutes, while the adrenaline is still sharp enough to override the instinct to get warm. Move 5 is the counterintuitive one that saves your electronics. Walk through the house and unplug everything. Not just turn off. Unplug your television, your computer, your microwave, your HVAC control board. When the grid comes back online, it doesn't ease back in. Like a dimmer switch, it slams the circuit with a voltage spike that can exceed several thousand volts for a fraction of a second. That spike travels through every outlet and fries the microprocessors in anything still connected. I've seen a single surge destroy a $5,000 home theater system and then travel through an HDMI cable into a gaming console for good measure. The utility company is not liable for that damage. Your homeowner's insurance may cover it, but after a $1,000 deductible and a 20% rate increase next year. Unplugging takes 90 seconds. It's free surge protection. Move 6. You leave exactly one light switched on. One lamp in one room turned on. When the power returns, that light coming back on is your signal. It works at night. It works during the day if you are in another room. Without it, you might not know the grid is live for hours and all that food in your freezer is sitting in a running appliance you didn't realize was running. You'd open the fridge, feel cold air and think you are safe. But you are not, because the damage to your frozen food happened before that light came on, and the only way to know if it refroze is a trick I'll show you in Move 8. But here is the thing about the first 10 minutes. This entire window exists because of a biological clock ticking inside your refrigerator right now, at this very moment, even before the outage hits. The danger zone for food is 40 degrees to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Above 40, bacteria like Salmonella, Listeria, and E. coli begin doubling every 20 minutes. Your refrigerator's job is to keep everything below 40. The moment the compressor shuts off, the countdown begins. A full refrigerator holds temperature for roughly 4 hours, but only if the door stays sealed. Every single opening you allow in those first minutes shaves off another 45 minutes of safety, because the cold air, which is heavier than warm air, pours out onto the floor the instant the seal breaks. This is the major pivot. You are not fighting the power company. You are fighting the rate of bacterial reproduction. And the fight is not won by waiting. It is won by a discipline that goes against every human instinct in an emergency. The discipline to do nothing, to walk past the refrigerator, to not check, to trust that the seal is doing its job, and your only job is to protect that seal. But some of you already opened the door. You came home to a dark house, saw the microwave clock was blank, and immediately pulled the handle to see how things looked. If you did that, you need to know Move 7 right now. And it's the one piece of hardware you should have bought yesterday for less than $10. That piece of hardware is a refrigerator thermometer, not the digital one that requires batteries. Those died the moment the power cut, leaving you blind. A simple analog dial thermometer that clips onto the wire shelf. You can find one at any grocery store for under $8. If you already opened the door, you need to know the real temperature inside right now, not what it felt like when you reached in, not whether the butter was still firm. The number, food held above 40 degrees Fahrenheit for more than 2 hours is unsafe. After 4 hours, it is garbage. No smell test. No looking for slime. No, but it was expensive. The USDA is brutally clear on this. When in doubt, throw it out. But the thermometer reveals something else. Something worse. Most refrigerators have warm zones near the door. So even if the back shelf reads 38, the milk in the door may have already crossed the line, and you drank from it anyway. Move 8. The freezer. This is where people get dangerously confident. They see ice crystals on a package of chicken and think, still frozen, I am good. Ice crystals mean nothing. They tell you the food got cold enough to freeze again, but not whether it spent 6 hours in the danger zone first. The real test requires preparation. Before the blackout, you freeze a small cup of water solid, then place a quarter on top of the ice. If the quarter is still on top when you open the freezer, the ice never melted. If the quarter sank to the bottom, the entire cup thawed and refroze, and everything in that freezer was above 32 degrees, likely above 40, for an unknown stretch. You cannot save it, not by cooking it, not by boiling it, not by pressure canning it. The bacteria left toxins behind, and those toxins survive heat. Toss it all. If you didn't set up the quarter test, there's a brutal backup. A full freezer that stayed sealed holds food safely for 48 hours. A half-full one, only 24. But if you open that door even once during the outage, the clock resets unpredictably. And here is the wait. It gets worse moment. Most freezers are not full when the power dies on a random Tuesday. They're half empty, and that half-empty space is the enemy. Fill empty milk jugs with water and freeze them now while you still have electricity. A packed freezer is a battery of cold mass that buys you an extra day. Without it, you are gambling. Move 9 is the one that determines whether you eat or lose. Everything you just fought to protect. It is not a tool, it is a rule. When the power returns, do not rush to the refrigerator. Wait. Let the compressor run for at least 30 minutes before you open the door. The food that survived the outage is still fragile, and the rush of warm air from your curiosity can push it over the edge. Instead, watch that single lamp you left switched on. When it glows, start a timer, 30 minutes. Then check the thermometer. If the refrigerator dropped back below 40, and the freezer below 0, and the quarter is still on top, you've won. If not, you follow the rule. Everything that spent more than 2 hours above 40 degrees goes into trash bags, heavy-duty ones, because the last thing you want is that liquid leaking through your kitchen floor. But the most expensive mistake in a blackout doesn't happen during the outage. It happens 3 days after the lights come back on, and it starts with an appliance you never think to check. That appliance is a $12 digital thermometer with a memory chip. It sits inside your refrigerator, silently recording the highest temperature it ever reached while you were in the dark. If your food climbed to 43 degrees for just 20 minutes, it knows. If your kids opened the door 4 times looking for juice boxes, it knows. And if the number on its screen is higher than 40, everything you just fought to protect is already lost. You just haven't felt it yet. The most common mistake is not throwing the food away. It's believing your fingers. The butter feels firm, the leftovers smell fine, the milk doesn't curdle. So you cook dinner, you feed your family, and 3 days later, the stomach cramps begin. The chills, the fever that spikes to 103 and sends you to an emergency room with a bill that makes a cart of spoiled groceries look like pocket change. The pathogen responsible is Listeria monocytogenes, and it is unlike every other foodborne bacteria you know. Salmonella and E. coli refuse to grow once the temperature drops below 40. Listeria laughs at 40. It continues multiplying down to 34 degrees, slower but steady, forming colonies inside sealed packages, on deli meats, in soft cheeses, on the surface of fruits and vegetables you washed before the outage. The USDA calls it the 3rd deadliest foodborne illness in America. 20% of people who get a serious Listeria infection die from it. And in a power outage, when your refrigerator teeters between safe and dangerous for hours, Listeria gets exactly the head start it needs to become lethal days later. This is the hidden consequence no emergency checklist mentions. The 9 moves in the first 10 minutes were about buying time. The quarter in the freezer, the unplugged electronics, the lamp left switched on. All of those are lines of defense against a clock you cannot see. But the only thing that can truly tell you if your food survived is a thermometer that remembers the worst moment while you weren't looking. Without it, every bite after the lights come back is a bet you didn't know you placed. So here is what you do after the 30-minute waiting period ends. You open the refrigerator door exactly once. You look at that thermometer. If the maximum recorded temperature is 40 degrees Fahrenheit or below, you are safe. If it's above 40 and you can't remember how long it stayed there, you remove everything that spoils and take it straight to the outdoor trash bin, double bagged. Not the kitchen trash. You don't want that smell or that bacteria anywhere near your food prep surfaces. Then you wipe down every shelf and drawer with a bleach solution, 1 tablespoon of unscented bleach per gallon of water, because Listeria hides in the seams of the gasket and the grooves of the shelf brackets. This final move is the one most people never make. They close the door, they move on, and they assume the cold will kill whatever grew. It won't. The cold only slows it. And in a few days, when the symptoms start, they never connect it to the blackout at all. They blame a restaurant. They blame the stomach flu. They never realize the real enemy was in their own kitchen the entire time, waiting for the power to go out. Now, the 9 moves are complete. But the real question isn't whether you'll remember them when the lights go out. It's whether you'll act on them before that even happens. Because the one item that makes every other step irrelevant is something you can buy right now. And it costs less than the 2 gallons of milk you'll throw away if a storm hits tomorrow. That item is a refrigerator freezer thermometer with a memory chip and an alarm. It stores the highest temperature reached during an outage. It beeps when the danger zone is breached. It does not guess. It reports. And it costs $12. $12 is the difference between knowing your food is safe and gambling your family's health on a smell test that bacteria have been designed to beat for billions of years. Most people spend hundreds on generators, weeks of freeze-dried meals, and backup power systems they never test. They skip the one piece of gear that actually tells them whether any of it worked. The 9 moves on this list are not complicated. They demand no special skills, no expensive tools, no physical strength. They ask only that you act before panic rewrites your decisions. Because in a real blackout, the threat is rarely the darkness outside. It is the silence in the kitchen, the refrigerator that hummed for years and now cannot protect what it holds. If this checklist made sense to you, if you see now that the first 10 minutes are the only ones that matter, then hit subscribe. The next video covers the one generator mistake that voids your homeowner's insurance. You will want that before the next storm season. And if you are ready to stop hoping the grid holds, I have put together a special resource for this community. The link is in the first pinned comment below. It is only there, and only for people who understand that waiting until the lights go out is already too late.